Good morning again, everyone. Thank you. We're going to get started as we've got a really kind of jam-packed day for you, and really excited to see all of you here today. Before we get started, I just want to say a huge thank you. It's really been a privilege to work with two really fabulous partners. Joanna Steinberg, who works here at the New Haven Museum, is also our New Haven Regional Coordinator, and she has worked, we're really appreciative of our friends at New Haven Museum. They are huge supporters of History Day. And then I'd also, and I don't think, is Joanna in here, or is she setting up still perhaps? And then also I'd like to recognize Aya Mazik, who is at the Yale University Library Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. And we really appreciate everything she's done. We were just reflecting that we started this months ago, and to see so many faces here, especially so many new faces, is wonderful. So thank you so much for the privilege of working on this program. And then I also want to just let you know that we do have the lovely person who welcomed you is Catherine Nopko, who works in the State History Day office. And let's give a thanks to her because she pulled all of our stuff together. It takes a village to do History Day. And then I'd like to recognize, I saw him, Tony Andre, if you want to wave your hand. Tony is our Fairfield Regional Coordinator. So if you have questions about what region you're in, we can help you with that. We kind of are little like congressional districts. They're not counties. They're a little bit wonky. So Joanna is our New Haven Regional Coordinator, and then coming later will be Cindy McManaman, who's the Mansfield area. So our schedule for today, and Aya, you're up close, so if I start going over time, you can grab the hook. What we're going to be doing today is I'm going to speak for about 15 minutes about History Day and this year's theme. Because we have so many new folks, I'm going to introduce History Day just to kind of get us on the same page. Then I will be followed by Danny Roque at 9:45 with two of his students who are here to talk about doing History Day at the high school in the community here in New Haven. Both of our students who are with us have been to the national contest, so we're really excited to hear their perspective about participating. And then, because we had so many folks, we are going to do concurrent sessions. We're going to have to divide up folks and kind of go half and half, and maybe what we'll do is just tables, or I can count out while Danny's talking and figure that out. But we're going to have one group, and you're going to get to do both sessions, so not to worry. One group will go with Aya and talk about doing history, how eyewitness accounts became an essential source for studying the Holocaust. This is, I think, going to be a really great introduction to historiography for folks. And then Joanna is going to be using their wonderful exhibit about the connection, truth to source, the connection between Yale University and slavery in its founding. And she's going to be speaking about encouraging interpretation and creativity through project-based learning, which is obviously a huge connection to History Day. We are more than exhibit boards. And then we're going to give you a break, have some lunch, have some conversation, and then we'll do our concurrent sessions again. We'll have a break. And then we'll have a chance for reflections and questions. And as I said, I have put together, some slides based on questions you had, but then we'll have time for open conversation and any questions that you have. I should mention my colleague, so I work at the Connecticut Democracy Center. Connecticut History Day is a program in residence at Connecticut's Old State House, which is managed by the Connecticut Democracy Center. And the other part of our organization are the wonderful folks at the Connecticut Network. So our first couple sessions are being filmed for teachers who might not be able to come today. So you might be on camera. Don't do anything you don't want your mom to see, right? So I think that's everything that we need to cover. For those of you who are new, how did you hear about History Day? How did you hear about the program?
My district does it, I was just new to it.
Great, okay.
I got an email from the state, I don't remember, a history organization in the state that listed like.
Oh, great, CCSS maybe? Awesome, okay. Okay, yes.
We were talking last year, like, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was like a science fair thing for history? And somebody said, well, you know, there's History Day.
Awesome.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, great. That's wonderful. How about one last person?
At our professional development day, several of the teachers had students who are past winners, and so we had a chance to talk.
Great. Well, that's really good to hear. It helps us know how to reach folks, and that's good to hear some of our efforts are bearing fruit. Connecticut History Day is obviously project-based learning, and each year we have a different annual theme. This year's theme is, and you'll probably get tired of hearing about it by the end of the year, it's rights and responsibilities in history. It is student-driven. Our tagline, which Tony came up with, is student choice, student voice, because students can choose what they study and how they do it. And the program, and when I talk about History Day, I always talk about it as an academic program. Students, what we don't tell them is, of course, now they'll know, is that the contests are a way of hooking them in, getting some competitive juices flowing. We do have some limitations on how many projects you can send to a contest. For the regional contest, that's 36 projects, 4 per category. So you may, as you grow your program at your school, you may need to have a school contest. But students have to win at a regional contest in order to continue up the ladder. There are 5 types of categories that students can choose to present as, and so the student choice, student voice part, we'll talk about the theme and how students can choose what to study. They can also choose to work alone or in a group. The only category in which you cannot work in a group is papers. You cannot write a group paper. I have had a group of students try to do that, but sorry, you can't. Everything else, either you can do individually or as a group member of 2 to 5 students. So students can do a paper, an exhibit, a documentary, a performance, or a website. And so they get a lot of control over their process. However, you as the teacher, and we can talk more about this, you as the teacher can put guidelines in. Like at some schools, you can only have 2 or 3 kids in a group. 5 can be unwieldy. So there are ways that you can put in, and we always tell students that, like they'll ask us what the rules are, but we always make sure to say, but you have to follow your teacher's instructions. There's a lot of flexibility with History Day, and I know that some of you in your comments asked about how can you do History Day, or talked about, well, I'm going to do it as an after-school club. The great thing about History Day is that you can do it in any kind of social studies class. You can do world history. Torrington High School for many years did History Day in a world history class, and they did it as part of their curriculum. You can integrate it in all your course curriculum. You can provide it as an enrichment opportunity. In some cases, that's an independent study. In some cases, like the Gifted and Talented program will sponsor it. However, I know, for instance, at many schools, while the gifted teacher might have, run kind of History Day at their school, they'll let students who are not in the gifted program participate as well. Or you can do it as a club format. So there are a lot of ways in which you can do History Day. This year's annual theme is rights and responsibilities in history. The reason why we have, can anyone tell me, why do you think we have a different annual theme every year? Any ideas? Any of our rectors? Yes.
So it's fresh and the students are just resubmitting the same project or something?
Excellent, that's right. So it's fresh, it's resubmitting. We change the theme every year, and it's on an 8-year cycle. So because I've been doing this a long time, I'm feeling a little aged. Not only are the projects on topics that I personally lived through, you know that feeling where you're like, oh, MTV starting, that's a historical thing now? But I am now at the point where, oh, I remember doing that annual theme 10 years ago. So it just lets it, so yes, to be fresh. Also, the thing about History Day is, and I tell students this, this is not the type of project where you learn every historical fact you can and then you regurgitate it out. This is taking it a step further. You know, someone mentioned science fair. This is like the lab for historians, like the lab activity, because we're asking students, look at the secondary research, go to the primary research, and then you craft an argument using evidence that connects your topic to this year's theme and tells the viewer the short-term impact, the long-term impact. And I always tell students, so I'm going to ask you the so what question. Why does it matter in 2024? And so it's really asking students to really have to do that analysis and be, you know, they only get 500 student written words on their exhibit board. So they really have to think about how they're going to present things. The topic must show impact. And the big question I always get is, well, how long ago was history? Some teachers will say 20 years. There is no, if you look at the rule book, look at every page, there is no like, this topic must be so many years old. What you do want to encourage your students to do is to choose a topic that shows that there's some distance so you can analyze its impact. So for instance, if someone was interested, let's say with the current war in Israel and they wanted to do that as their topic, rights and responsibilities, as a teacher, I would say to them, that's not really, we're still in the experiencing what's going on there. But what you can do is you can look at a current event and you can say, oh, how did we get to this point? And then find a topic. So we are in our 50th year of celebration. National History Day was founded 50 years ago. And one of the things about this year's theme is it's important for students to consider questions of time and place, cause and effect, change over time, and impact and significance. One of the things that's really important about this year's theme, it's an and, rights and responsibility. Projects need to have both. It's not an or in there. So that's something really important. And they're very connected, of course, you know, in terms of rights and responsibilities. One of the things that we will share with you, and maybe we'll wait to the end of our session so we don't have a lot of papers going around. We've given out packets to each of the schools in attendance today, and most of you also got a theme, an HD theme book. There are over 50 affiliates of National History Day throughout the country. One of the great things about the program is the generosity, that we're interested in serving students. So what we have for you as well, there's a theme sheet that you can give to students that comes from the theme book, but we also have some materials from, and you know what, maybe what we'll do is just leave it out for everyone, because there's National History Day in California does a really nice job of having a theme sheet that's focused towards 6th through 8th, as well as one focused through 9th through 12th. And then our friends in Minnesota also have a theme sheet. And so we brought those along as well, because that might be helpful. I think this is a really rich topic, a rich theme, I should say, but it has its challenges as well. So we'll have those for all of you. And I should mention, I think I said this in the email, we will have materials for you that we will send out. Like my PowerPoint, I'll send out to everyone. It'll have live links to help you out with that. So a right, as we all know, is a freedom or privilege that individuals possess as human beings or as citizens of a society. A responsibility is what is expected of a person as a member of society. So they're very much linked there. Types of rights, I'm not going to read these all out for you. I promised Danny I would try to be on time, and I'm already like at time, because if there's something I like to talk about, it's a National History Day. But types of rights are civil rights and political rights and social rights. Responsibilities are legal, civic, social, ethical. And this is a chart that is very helpful to help students think about, like that can seem like way kind of esoteric, but like using a public park or playground, that's your right, but what's the responsibility? Are you expected to do anything when you leave? Or so other people can enjoy it. So it's that kind of relationship between the two. One of the questions I get asked a lot about is how do students find topics? I'm going to say that although students can do any kind of history, local, state, national, world, international, if you want to do the space station, they can do any kind of history. But if you have specific curriculum that you need to get through, like for instance, you're teaching American history up to 1865, and you want to keep your students in that time frame, you can do that. Or let's say you have certain things you got to cover. You might even have a list of suggested topics that students can choose from if you need to go that route. If you have the ability to, like it's an after-school club or something, and just let students choose whatever, that's kind of the number one things that students say they enjoy, that they love the ability to choose. So how do students find topics? We just talked a little bit about watching the news, things that pique their interest, and kind of looking into the history of it. Family history. Some of my favorite topics or projects I've seen have had to do with family history. One of our students, actually the daughter of a coworker, had a relative who was killed by Hitler during the Holocaust. She did her project on him and actually was able to interview her grandmother who knew the person. So really cool stuff like that. Another student who his family's from India used to choose these really unique, wonderful topics. Personal interest. We've talked a lot about rights and responsibilities. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Yikes. A little bit more about them, but personal interest. When students look at me and say, well, I don't like history, and I'll start asking them, well, do you like fashion? Do you like music? Sports? There are rich topics in all of those. Exploring your community, looking at a sign, looking at something I probably am a danger on the road, drive around, is I'm always intrigued by like road names, like, oh, I wonder who that was, or a school name, like, who's that? Or just talk with people. I'm not sure if she's here yet, but one of our teachers had a student years ago do a project that was had to do with Russian and American history by talking to someone. I don't know how they did this, but somehow someone knew a former KGB agent and was able to email. Like, it's a small world and it's kind of wild, so talk to people. When I went through the rights and responsibilities, like with rights, you might think, oh, they have to just do politics, or they have to do a law or a court case or war or something. But this is a really rich topic. Can anyone tell me a rights and responsibilities topic that someone could do related to sports?
Title IX.
Yes, Title IX, that was the one I thought of. Every year we get Jackie Robinson projects. No offense to Jackie Robinson at all. But can have them consider maybe looking at it from a different angle. Like, so he's credited with, integrating baseball. Who was the first to play in basketball? Or my figure skating analogies, nobody seems to find exciting. But I remember watching, skaters who broke the color barrier in figure skating, like Surya Bonali from France. What about art? What rights and responsibilities?
Freedom of expression.
Yes, freedom of expression, finding examples of that. Great topics there. Science, rights and responsibilities.
Henrietta Lacks.
Yes, I was thinking of that too, that using someone's cells without their permission. Fashion, rights and responsibilities. Yeah, public indecency. Yeah, lots of good topics. Or maybe women. I remember my first job in Charleston, South Carolina, a long time ago. And I walked into work in pants, and I kind of got, people looked at me like I was this wild woman in my 20s wearing pants. And music, rights and responsibilities. Yep, folk music, protest music. I remember, anyone alive when Tipper Gore started her? I remember I was a teenager there. I was horrified by that. Now as a parent, I'm like, oh, I get it. Your perspective changes, but any kind of topic. One of the things that is, I think of the Goldilocks and the Little Bear story. and I promise Danny, I'm like wrapping it up for you. The Goldilocks and the Three Bears story, where, you know, the just right, that's kind of with a History Day project. You need students to have a topic that's just right. Students will come in and say, I want to do World War II. Well, young person, you will not be able to cover the history of World War II in 10 minutes in a documentary. I'm very sorry about that. You're going to have to narrow it down, and you want to encourage your students to play to the theme. I see projects every year. I see them at nationals, and you walk by and you think, how does this relate to rights and responsibilities? It's a report. What the students are doing is essentially a 5-paragraph essay that is an argument using evidence. So you want them to start off, okay, you're interested in World War II, great. What's your area of interest? Is it military? Is it civilians? If it's civilians, you might, you know, have a broad topic of maybe internment of Japanese Americans, and then you narrow it down. I found an example that I really liked. People who know me well know I'm a real Anglophile. I have a big British flag in my office. So I was thinking about the American Revolution. And what about those loyalists who were here? That made up a third of the population, right? In 1775, there was a law passed by the Connecticut General Assembly that is referred to as kind of like an anti-Tory law. And eventually, Connecticut required people to take oaths of to the colony, to the state. So, you know, whose rights did this law support? Was it comfortable for Tories living in Connecticut? What do you think? No, probably not. And Newgate Prison, some of them were sent there. And, you know, that can be a really rich question. And you can see where we started big, okay, American Revolution, and then narrowed it down. And that's, you know, I know that sometimes teachers will say to me how worried they are because I can't know the history for 20 different projects. And the good thing is you don't need to. You don't have to be an expert in it. But the guiding questions of asking, okay, well, how does it tie in? And the thing I wanted to mention is that we have a lot of resources for you. And you're going to kind of hear this ad nauseum. The theme book that you got, nhd.org/theme, has a video. We also have a list of Connecticut topics if you want to direct your students to those. Doing local topics is awesome. And then you'll find in the student and educator handbook, you will find that we have a section about this year's theme. And the other thing I should mention in conclusion is that we will come to your schools and do free workshops. We have a whole range of them, one of which is our theme workshop. So with that, I'm gonna cut myself off, and maybe Danny, if you guys wanna come up, get yourself situated, and we will see if we have any questions about the theme.
During this transition, I'm going to be putting those theme sheets from California and Minnesota up on the platform underneath the screen so folks have a chance to grab them during those transition points between the sessions and during lunch.
I see we have a question. Your question, please?
Yeah, it's not on the theme, it's about the date this year. Is it the same date for all states in the nation, or because I know the date is March 8th?
Yep, so that's a great question. The question was, what are the dates for the contests? And the regional contest dates are all different. So they're through March. The state contest is on May the 3rd. And the reason why we have different Saturdays for the dates of the contest is that, so like, I think March, I might not remember all of them, and Catherine's here, she can jump in. March the 1st is Fairfield. March the 8th is New Haven and Norwich. And then, let's see, March the 13th.
22nd.
22nd, that's right, that's our week.
The 22nd is our Torrington Regional Contest, and the 29th is Mansfield.
So the reason why we do them all differently in terms of dates is because that way we can be at each of the contests. And also for students, if you have a student who can't make your regional contest, we will, if it's a kind of an academic base or some kind of, you know, it's not that, oh, I don't feel like doing it on the 8th. if you have a student has a conflict, please contact us and we can talk to you and see if we can accommodate them somewhere else. Great question. It's Friday afternoon. We want to get you guys out because you're hardworking teachers. It's the weekend. You deserve to have fun. Have a good time. Often research or whatever wild things you have planned. But I want to first of all thank all of you for being here. I know it's not easy to get permission to get out of school or to have substitutes to cover you. So thank you so much for being here. We will send out either later today or next week. We're still filling up kind of the Google Drive with materials, so we'll have the link for you, but be mindful that things will appear in that, so you'll have a lot of great resources. The other thing I wanted to say is that we will send out a survey because we are planning for our next PD, our next educators workshop probably in November. So if there are things you want to delve more deeply into, please let us know because we really try to serve and meet you guys where you need help. I just wanted to, we have a few minutes for reflection and thoughts, and I've had a lot of great conversations with folks, and I've heard them going on. I wanted to just maybe start with just a couple slides that I put together based on the questions you had coming into today's workshop. And so I hope it sparks discussion. And also if there are things that we haven't covered or you have questions, all of the leaders, I think Danny had to go, but the rest of us are all here. We're happy to chat and answer any further questions you have. I just wanted to say that a couple things that came up as questions that a lot of people had to do with pacing and scheduling. I feel like we did answer some of that today in that Joanna did a really nice document, a 10-step process through History Day. That's the bare bones. If you're looking at, which I think is great because it's like step one, you follow that and your students will have a project. With the educator's handbook, that's a little bit more, you might look at it and think, oh goodness, how am I going to do this? So I think starting with the 10-step solutions, shall we say, is a great way to go. In the educator workshop, handbook, there are schedules that Cindy put together that are based on 8-week, 12-week, and I think 15-week. One thing that we're going to share as well, and I've got it, I have it at the bottom. Minnesota History Day is like the powerhouse of affiliates, and they're very generous. We're going to send the slides out so you can have the live link, but they have these folks called master teachers, so you can also find a ton of curriculum that they have up on the web to use. But we do have different timelines for implementing the program. As a newer teacher, I think, and veterans throw things or correct me if I'm wrong, it's better, the earlier you start, the better because you're under less pressure. Someone asked me, well, when is History Day? The registration, as Catherine mentioned, is opening up in mid-November. Most deadlines are in January through like early February. All of the regional contests take place in March. And if you have any questions about where do I go, we can help you with that. So you're kind of, and the thing I should say is you can register a student, and we have people do this. They register a student, let's say John Smith, and they register as their title History Day Project or Revolutionary War. That's okay, because you can go in as you get closer and change it, or even if that's the title that comes up, it doesn't matter, you've got them registered. Another question that came up, getting students excited. I would suggest that maybe what we did today, did anyone feel excited to see those wonderful two young ladies? That to me is the best way to get students excited. I love History Day. I mean, like I'm wearing my paraphernalia, like I've got my stuff on, I'm totally into History Day, but nothing sells the program like other peers. And so students who have done it before or have made nationals or, like getting those folks, and Kelly, I'm looking at you with NFA where you have years of students who have participated. There are bring those students in and have them sell the program, because then students will be like, oh, if they can do it, I can. And I think that's one of the best ways to do it. The other suggestion I would have is, we do have a video, I didn't show it to you, on our website, which is, you know, all about Connecticut History Day. And on our website as well, we have student projects. So sometimes sharing a student project, Nationals has student projects as well. That's kind of a fun thing to do, because, you know, it's, you know, again, students see themselves. Category selection and support. How do you encourage selection of non-exhibit categories? I would say, again, sharing examples is helpful. I will also tell you a big secret that is A-okay to tell your students, because it's not really a secret. The lowest participation is in performances. If students want to, they're betting kids, they're outgoing kids, they really want to make states, performance is the category for them, especially individual performance. As you can imagine, it's pretty intimidating, and that is you can encourage them in that way. I think the other thing too, and I believe Emmeline said it earlier today, when someone asks, well, do you choose your category first or your topic? Honestly, I did not prep them, but I wanted to jump up and shout hooray when they said your topic first. Because if a student's gonna do ancient Egypt, probably a documentary is not gonna be the best choice. We don't wanna see the same pictures 3 times, right? So, you know, but if you have like the Vietnam War, or, you know, other more recent history, that there are a lot of great visuals. Students should think about how to best tell the story. How do we encourage creativity in exhibits? I think Joanna spoke to that really eloquently, of getting excited by going out and seeing, you know, an exhibit, watching a documentary. And I think one of the biggest questions we get is, how do I support students in categories that I'm not an expert at? You know, every year, as my colleagues know, I am like one of the least technologically gifted people on the planet, but I've judged websites. Because here's the thing, you don't have to become an expert at how to do a website to guide students. All History Day websites, students need to go through NHD Web Central. They have to create their website using that portal and that system. NHD has a variety of videos on how to do a website. And I would say, out of all categories, if you have any kids interested in websites, have them start early. It's not the easiest system to use, but we had to go to that system because Weebly would not let us let middle school students do a website anymore. But if you're worried about supporting students in categories you don't know, I think one of the, you know, I think sometimes the most successful programs, it takes a village. So here in New Haven, Worthington Hooker has a really great History Day program, because at its inception, they had a librarian who was a key part of it and helped the students with research. If you have a partner in your English teacher, they're a great person to rope in, because as I said earlier, every project, even the visual ones, are a 5-paragraph essay. And so getting, you know, and the students are gonna have to write a process paper, they're going to have to create an annotated bibliography. That's a way maybe that you can, you know, work together on that. And if you have someone who, and I know Danny said that there isn't, unfortunately, a theater program at their school, but if you have any teachers or community members who are theater folks, or, you know, find those folks and make use of them. And I think that's a way to help. I'm kind of going through this quickly because I want to kind of make sure we have time for further questions. Any thoughts on this, or anything that's not clear? You're probably so full of information at this point. Oh, here's a good one. How do I help students when they have 20 different topics? I can't be an expert in everything. I took a lot of Russian history when I was in college. Truthfully, interesting, not really helping me. But none of us can be experts in every kind of history, right? Even those of us with history degrees. The fact is, though, what a lot of support to students is asking questions. How does your topic relate to this year's annual theme? What's the impact? Asking students to explain this to you will help you see where research is lacking or work needs to be done. And you don't have to be the expert in every kind of history, but you know the process. And so that's really what you're helping them with. And one thing that some schools do is even before one of the contests, they will have like a community event, or they'll have an open house for the school, and getting some of your other colleagues, perhaps even if their kids aren't doing History Day, to look at projects is helpful. Excuse me, but a lot of this is asking questions. I once went to Minnesota, and they had this like prescription pad, and I was trying to find it, and I couldn't. But basically, you'd have a 5-minute conference with a student. It was a Saturday event at a library, and so basically, what it would ask them, you were supposed to ask the student is, tell me about your project. Tell me the connection with the theme. What sources do you have? And that's really kind of how you help students along the way. I know that one concern is students might lack basic historical knowledge. Some of our resources that we have, we're going to send a whole sheet to you. Wikipedia is not evil. It's okay to start with sometimes, to just kind of get a sense, but knowing that you need to go further than that. This is what I wanted to throw out to our veterans. For those of you who've done History Day projects with students, how do you help students when they don't have a lot of perhaps historical background? Yeah, Cindy.
Sometimes I've had kids look for nonfiction picture books related to their topic to help them at the early stages of getting historical context. It's a fast read generally, and it's also helpful if you have students who are reading at lower than grade level. It gives them a little more confidence with accessing that information. So this is a good place to connect with the librarian either at the school that could reach down to the elementary or reach out to your public librarians to see if there are books that you could borrow that might be connected to your students' topics, or that the students could go and check out themselves. It's just a good starting point, and then it can also lead to some research skills on how to use that book to find primary sources, because a good nonfiction picture book will still have sources listed at the back. So there's some good skills that come from using that as well. And the kids aren't threatened by a picture book, where they might be as with a 300 or 400 page book from a historian. So.
Actually, I was going to mention the same thing, only what I don't even just say picture books. If they look at some of the young adult historical fiction, some of those books, they can get a sense of the history if they read through it. Usually it's a quick read for them, and it does help the lower level students reading. The other thing is there are sources online now that you can get for reading by lexile level. So you may be able to find background and something. I believe National Geographic does lexile level on some of their things. So that's another way to help students that have a lower reading.
Great.
Depending on what you have access to, like if you have online databases that your school subscribes to, like ABC Clio, it's essentially an online encyclopedia that breaks up in some ways, like the similar sort of topics you have to cover within the project, whether it be like key figures, background information. Those are typically not too dense, and they only put so much information on one page at a time. I would use those, or find a reputable or credible video to watch. Like sometimes it's just helpful to be able to watch something, not to say that that should be ultimately a source, but and it comes with its own risks, but sometimes it's helpful to watch it, you know, visuals and to be explained in some way, shape, or form audibly instead of having to read to begin with.
That's great. Thank you. Yes.
And don't forget, even if you don't have databases, I mean, I know New Haven, we buy Encyclopedia Britannica, and we have some Gale resources, but everybody has access to research at CT, and you can set your level in that for what you need, and all you need is your public library card to access that from home. If you're in your school building, research at CT identifies your IP address, and it will not ask you for a library card. But if the student wants to continue that work at home, they will need a library card to be able to access the databases and such.
Thank you. And moving on, it's how many folks have started introducing History Day to your students yet? Has anyone started? So what are some tips for our newer friends here for implementing the program at their school and getting the process started?
Yes.
I like starting with your lunch video. I think it kind of really ropes kids into the new theme. You know, I mean, I've talked about it a little bit already because I've got the younger kids who haven't done it before, and I hand them up to one, you know, hopefully with a little bit of background. But, you know, I think the format of the video usually is a nice way to rope them in, as well as the, you know, there's a student introduction video. I don't remember if it's on the Connecticut site or the NHD site, but that helps as well when they actually hear kids talking about their experiences.
One of the first activities we do with the NHD unit is let's guided a scavenger hunt of the NHD website. So just getting them to familiarize themselves with where different bits of information are on the website, I think will help down the line. So when you say, like, check this page, we know they know what we need.
I found a couple of different things work to kind of get them interested. If you can, like for one of my first activities, especially for younger students, get some hands-on activities for them, such as primary sources. I have a few things that I laminated, old newspapers, and I give them to them, and they have, it's kind of like a search that they have to find, and it gets you right on it with dry erase markers and make notes and things like that. And then there was another thing that I did that they love, is if you take like common items like water bottles or something like that, you give each group something, and they have to look at it through the eyes of, you know, who's the manufacturer, how is this important, why is it gluten-free, what does that mean? And it really gets their minds thinking, and they're not looking at things the same way anymore. And I think part of this program is helping to open them up, because they're so used to, oh, I can Google it. And if you can get them to see things from different perspectives, I think that's a big key, and it really gets them excited. So that's something that was an activity that they just loved whenever I did anything like that. The other thing I did this year with my high school, and I just started this, and it seems to be a good thing. For us, it's an after-school club, and I decided this year we were going to have officers for it, so that all of a sudden I have these students that are super excited and say, what can I do? And they ran the club fair today when I wasn't there, and we all week long worked to get it together. And they're out there now trying to get other students engaged. And even before the club fair, it's like, oh, we need more people than this. You know, we need to tell them how exciting this is. So it's giving, especially at the high school level, they're all looking for something to put on their resumes. So if you can kind of bring something like that into it, it helps. And also the older students are there to help guide the younger students. And so, you know, it kind of makes them feel more welcome into the building, and it gives them a little bit more of a purpose. So that seems to be working this year. The other thing I do, and I know it was brought up a few times today, but before COVID, I used to run field trips every year. I'd run two, one in the fall and one probably like January, February. And when you can, especially for the middle school and the younger kids, if they think they can go on a field trip, oh my gosh, they get so excited. So I get to go out of school to go on this trip. And I usually bring them to a historical society. We've been here, I brought them to the New Haven one. They do an excellent job with the program. Depending on where your school is located, try and find one local or that's easy for you. We've used the Litchfield one, I've used the Connecticut Historical Society, we've used the Old State House.
And just to mention, we do offer a themed tour of the building, so it's related to this year's theme. You know, it's kind of nice because you can come to New Haven if you're closer to them and do something with Joanna, which you all had a great experience with today, or you can come see us. We don't have archives, but we do have a theme tour, so.
But that really helps, and the historical societies have, most of them have a small archive. So generally what I try and do when I set the program up, we split depending on the size of the group, we cut them in half. Half will spend a session in an exhibit and going through like a program with that. And then the other, we try and get the rest, everybody by the end of the day gets time in an archive. And starting in a historical society, it's a small archive and it's their first exposure to something beside a school library or even a town library. And seeing all those primary documents and all these things that have been put together in these collections, that gets students very, very excited. And then I do that first because it's really not as overwhelming. And then I bring them, we've gone to the state library, generally around end of January, beginning of February, after they have a good understanding of their topic. And that's where we kind of use that to help finalize some of their research and get some of those congressional records and other information they may not find somewhere else. And if you start at the library, I think it's almost too overwhelming. But by doing it in steps like that, it helps to build their skills. So, those are things that I have found helpful. And by just getting them out, it's like it's real to them and it holds their interest. And I can't stress enough, they need to make sure they have a topic that they really embrace themselves. And the students that have like a family connection or something they're really passionate about, those are the ones that are the most successful. So.
Great, thank you. Any other suggestions? Yes.
So I do this from the middle school level, and for my seventh grader, what I usually do is I start them off with a quick introduction into some of the samples. So I look at the CHD website and I show them what's been done on there, show them on there, and also what's been done with past students as well, and it really piques their interest. And then following a short introduction of the samples, typically I get into primary and secondary sources, knowing that in the middle school level, there's still like a little room for improvement in terms of knowing and identifying different sources. And it does help the students along the lines of finding relevant information down the line. And it saves time for the educator as well, because instead of having to go over this later on in the project, you're actually able to get most of it done at the beginning. And so it does, in essence, engage the students early on, and they look forward to it.
Great. Awesome, thanks for all the suggestions. One thing I wanted to ask everyone, if I don't like to give out, I've been blind copying everyone, but if folks are okay with it, I'd be happy to share kind of the list of everyone who attended today. So if you've met someone and you're like, I'd like to talk to them further, we can certainly share that information, or you can contact, let me know if you don't want to do that, but we'd be happy to share that so you had everyone's contact information. There are a lot of resources. This is something to explore later because probably we're all a little brain dead at this point. But there are a lot of places to go for help. Check out our website. We have the handbooks that we've talked about. We also have resources for virtual learning. We are going to do another educator workshop in a couple months, and we will come and we have 6 different classroom workshops we will do with you in your classroom that take you through from introduction to the program to this year's theme to primary sources, what's a good thesis statement, you be the judge, all kinds of stuff. So we'll come and do that for free with you. National History Day website has a section just for teachers. They have so much good material, really fabulous. Both of us have YouTube channels where we have videos you can watch. Follow us on social media. We have Topic Tuesday right now on our social media. And also look at the other affiliates. We have a whole bunch, and I'm not sure where they ended up, but we have a whole...
They're out on the table outside.
Oh, fabulous. So on your way out, make sure to stop and check out some of the materials we brought from California History Day and from Minnesota History Day on this year's theme, because, as I mentioned before, Minnesota History Day has master teachers. There's so much good stuff. California, Minnesota, Georgia are all really strong affiliates. With implementation, we've talked already about the handbooks. There's an NHD rule book. All three of those are in Spanish as well as English, and we have a list of Connecticut topics that we can hand out to you. YouTube, tons of great stuff. My favorite, I think, is for those of you who are newer, and it's titled, Help, I'm a New History Day Teacher. And so our director of programs at National History Day, Lynn O'Hara, was a History Day kid and taught it in the classroom. She's done a tremendous job. There are quick tips, tons of videos that you can use in your classroom that really, as we were talking about, help make the point without having to read it. And also you can see what the rules are and evaluation forms. We won't talk too much about judging at the contest, that's next, but they are judged on rubrics. We've talked a little bit about how do you organize. Noodle tools was mentioned, as well as digital notebook. There are a lot of great resources out there. And then don't worry about having to write all of this down. I worked to pull together some online sites along with our colleagues, and lots of great things out there. Library of Congress, huge History Day supporter, has a page that's for History Day. Same thing with the state library. So we gave you direct links. Aya gave us the links for Beinecke, where you can access the public-facing parts of their library. So some good stuff there. Lots and lots of wonderful materials. Connecticut History Day, ConnecticutHistory.org. If you have students interested in doing a Connecticut topic, they actually have a page, again, dedicated to History Day, where they go through this year's theme and highlight how, what local topics might be of interest. Library of Congress is a great one as well. All of these I'm going through really quickly because we're going to send you the list. We also have, one of the challenges has been, but I'm teaching world history, where do I find resources? We have, there's one that's Europe focused. I have a few that are focused on the history of the continent of Africa, map sites. So there are a lot of good resources online that we'll share with you. I think I wanted to just kind of answer two things and then throw this out to the group because it's just about 3. We want to let you go. How does this tie, someone had asked, to America 250? Has everyone heard of America 250? We're getting, we have a sheet on it, but we are leading up to the 200th and 50th anniversary of 1776, and looking at, so that's called America 250, and so there's a lot of work being done. And I'll be sharing some with all of you because I'm on the education subcommittee. But a lot of the themes that we explore really tie to the themes of exploration of the founding of our country and rights and responsibilities for, all people, which, as we know, it was an imperfect union. I'm hoping to work with a group from the Connecticut League of Museums, where they have some museums who have collection software that we're hoping to convince to do mini online exhibits that we'll be able to share with you and your students to do that. We've talked a little bit about relevance to students who English is a second language. Some of the steps and tips for assisting them. The project has to be in English, but sources don't have to be. And this is a great way of having students speak to their own family history or ethnic history and really sharing that, so it can be a really exciting opportunity. I wanted to just ask this question of everyone, especially our veterans in the audience. Common challenges students face when working on a History Day project, and how can they be addressed? What are some common challenges that your students face working on History Day?
Time management.
Time management, yeah.
It's designed to be an independent project, I think especially expected more at the high school level, and it's hard to manage time.
My favorite thing in talking with experienced History Day students is they talk about the first year, how like they left things to the last minute, and on like the second year, it's like their eyes have been open, like keeping on task. But yeah, usually when we ask students, time management is one of the big things they say they've learned. Any other of our veteran teachers out there? Cindy, what are some common challenges?
I would say dealing with group dynamics is always a challenge. Doesn't matter what grade level you're working with. Conflict resolution when you're in group, how to delegate tasks so that the work is equitably divided. And so from the teacher's standpoint, it just involves a lot of conferencing with students to keep them, keep tempers and expectations in check. I think that's a big one.
Some affiliates have like a signed agreement that the students have to sign in order to be in a group. Some teachers limit group sizes because of dynamics. Yeah, I've gotten some of those calls too. Any other challenges? Well, were there any other questions that you feel like, we haven't answered this? Or if you are driving home and think, we didn't answer this, please reach out to us. We are going to have another workshop. And so if there are things that you'd like to cover more in depth, I know this was kind of like a quick response. Really, today was kind of an experiment for us in trying to focus a little bit more on the kind of broad historiography and thinking about ourselves as historians and our students. It's early in the process, so this is the time of year. Ramp up, get kids excited, get started. And what we try to do in like our second educator workshop is to perhaps hone down a little bit more on the nuts and bolts of the program and how do you kind of get students from A to B. So I hope that you've all found this really helpful. We've really enjoyed having you. These are some opportunities. National History Day, it's all about teaching history. As I said, it's an academic program, not a contest. I mean, the contest is the hook for the young people. But there's an online course that's coming up. I think most of the time their courses are free or very low cost, so those are opportunities. And then one of our teachers and students went last year, because we're one of the 13 original colonies. If you have a student you'd like to consider, you want to go with, the Young People's Continental Congress is taking place next summer, and Jen McMunn, who some of you might know, who went this past summer, said it was the best professional experience that she had. You know, yay! Anyway, thank you all for coming. Have a great weekend. Grab something for the road.